All right, all right. Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's episode of Hey Sister. Hey sister, how you doing over there?
Hello.
I'm doing good. I'm a little sleepy, but I'm doing good.
Okay, okay. Well, and we are so excited to have our guest with us this evening, Max, and we call you Angie, but we'll
Yes.
say Andrea.
Okay.
Hey,
Okay.
y'all.
What's
Hey,
up?
girl. Hey.
Hey. We are so excited to have y'all with us tonight. So if you are tuning in and you're watching us in a live broadcast, make sure you like, follow, share, subscribe, tell someone, hey, tune in to Hey Sister every now and then. And also join the conversation in the comments. We have some great guests tonight. We have some great questions for them, but I know that you have some questions too. So that's where you get to ask your questions and have your questions answered. Let's see. We got a few people tuning in. Hey, hello. We got some folks tuning in this evening. So hi everybody.
Hello.
Hello, how
Hi.
you guys doing out there?
Yeah, so we're super excited, as we said, to have you both with us this evening. So we're gonna do your formal introduction in a moment, but we want to start in typical Hey Sister fashion with a couple of hot topics, and we want to get your take as well as my sister's take. So hot topics this evening. We're only gonna talk about a couple things because the world has been whirling out there. I don't know how y'all feel about it,
Absolutely.
but the January 6th committee hearings premiered in primetime television last week. There is a schedule of broadcasts that it will be showing. So I want to know, what did you all think about the hearing on last Thursday, if you tuned in?
Oh, I could start. Well, I think personally, I think what we saw, especially with when Cheney spoke, is kind of like a reaffirmation for whatever we already were thinking or were reading when January 6th events were happening live, right? So
Hmm.
um, if when you think about like the election results and the way you kind of saw Trump and his followers or his subordinates leaning in this way of spewing out these lies about the election results and how it's wrong and fighting for democracy and kind of putting those dog whistles out there to kind of get the base riled up. And I
Hmm.
think the people on the fringes of his support network just took their anger and frustrations out, and he didn't shield that in any way when it was that day. But I think what we really came to see is that some of the things, it's just like, how does this happen in America, right? And it happens in America because when you get to that level, there was supposed to be a phone call that was made, and
Hmm.
that phone call was never made by the commander in chief.
Hmm.
And what you saw was basically, her admitting on live television what we all thought, like, oh, you encourage this kind of behavior, but you also see the forgiveness that these people have for each other.
Hmm.
And so on his side, or people who support Trump, that entire side, they're like, oh, let's just sweep it under the rug. It was a moment in time. Let's just move on. And we find that, like, at least I find it in my workspace, that, like, I don't want to say fairness,
Mhm.
but there are inequities in just what's fair,
Hmm.
Mhm.
because somebody who is a Trump, who can galvanize people and people could follow him, right? When they do things, when they make mistakes, there's always like a floor where they'll never go below, no matter how egregious the mistake is. But if we're people, then we look like me and you. If we make those same mistakes, or we do those things, there's no floor, there's no bottom, right?
Hmm.
You're not only out of here, you on the street. They throw you in jail for 30 years,
Mhm.
for 8 lifetimes, and just
So ridiculous.
banish you.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But somebody like him, we can be watching the same thing, and certain people are like, oh,
Never
this is
heard.
old news, it doesn't matter, oh, it's just made up stories. No, this is factual. And this is a woman who is part of his party. And when I say a woman, I mean Cheney, where
Hmm.
she's just mentioning, like, oh, things that happened. Like, he didn't even make the call to get the people there to protect the foundation, the fabric of democracy. It was actually Pence who actually made the call, and that should have never happened.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, deep. Okay, come on with it. Come on with that hot take,
Yeah, yeah.
sister. What do you say?
All right. So about the hearings themselves, I honestly, I didn't get to see all of it because I was out of town working and I had some dinners that night. But I, I think my feeling immediately was, so what are we gonna know differently in this primetime coverage that we didn't see for ourselves in real time?
Mm-hmm.
And granted, there were some things that were, I would say, the documentary filmmakers speaking and showing footage of meetings before January 6th on January 5th between the Proud Boys and these other fringe groups. I don't know all their names, there's so many of them. But so we see that there was something very deliberate, right, that took place. So the idea that it just got out of control, or that it was really Black Lives Matter and Antifa that was there, those kind of things, it's clear that that's not true. But beyond that, what did we really hear that we hadn't already seen with our own eyes? And for me, and then what will change anything? Because what I've witnessed over the last few years is the gaslighting is real. We all sat and watched, and the folks said, that ain't even how it happened. What? And they literally was just like,
Yeah.
girl, that was a regular day at the Capitol.
Right.
And I'm like, what?
I've been to the Capitol on a regular day. It didn't look like that.
Right.
So that's the part I don't know what really comes of it. And again, I was at a conference. I was in Nevada. I live here in Arizona. And the campaign ads right now are just so, when I tell you they so ridiculous, they are so ridiculous. But you would think people would be like, ooh, let me maybe distance myself from Trump. No, they are like digging the heels, right? They're digging their heels in like, yes, a true Trump conservative. And I'm like,
patriot.
Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, guns, they pulling out guns in the campaign ads. And I just wonder, what if January 6th didn't make you want to step away from him, then there is nothing that's going to make you want to step away from him. That's how I feel. But maybe I'm wrong.
Well, I think, there's more to come. There were new revelations. So, what you think about the Justice Department, all the lawyers saying they're going to resign? I don't know. I just felt they was whining because I was too busy trying to do all these pardons. What pardons were you trying to do already? Like what? There was some revelations. I think there's more to come. I put in the comments the schedule, and what that schedule does show is what the aim is for each of those nights that they broadcast. So we shall see. Now, so since you talked about guns, what was very interesting in the January 6th in some of that video footage, hey, those legal gun owners knew they couldn't bring those guns into DC, so they stashed them in hotels all around Virginia because they have different gun laws state by state, right, and jurisdiction by jurisdiction. Well, there's a bipartisan Senate group that is working on a framework on gun safety. They've completed a framework on gun safety. By the look on your face, sister, you like, I don't know.
Because you got to complete a framework. I mean, how hard is this? Angie, Max, you're doctors. Let me ask you, do you have to have a license to practice in your respective fields?
Absolutely.
Okay, if you do something and you hurt or harm someone, can you be sued for doing hurt or harm to somebody?
Lose your license.
Yep.
You can lose your license. You have to pay a lot of money in insurance to keep malpractice insurance, right? So I'm just like, what we need a framework for? What are you talking about? Stop allowing everybody and their mama to buy a gun. Listen, the number of people who I've seen who have had cases of child neglect and their children are dying, just like everybody shouldn't be a parent, everybody shouldn't be a gun owner.
Yeah.
Some of this stuff isn't that hard. So I mean, if they have to spend money and time developing a framework, sure. But I feel like we've outlined some very simple things, some common sense practices for a while.
Well, I think the more common sense it becomes, the more outrageous the opposition becomes. So the more common sense gun reform laws that are suggested, that they know people may actually say, okay, well, we can concede to that, the more they're like, they just want to take away everything, all your guns. And I've never ceased to be amazed by that's always the retort. And I'm like, when people say gun reform, it means, stricter background checks or checks at all, because some states don't even have that and they're loosening it up even more, like in Texas. But, it's flowing to me because that's just the main take all or nothing. And that's not what we're saying, because we know it'll never happen that way. This is America. We're founded on guns. And I don't ever, in any of the stretch of my imagination, think we would ever be able to take away guns. But I do feel like it's common sense to just want some gun reform. If you feel like someone has to be 21 to drink, be a certain age to get lottery tickets, you have to wear seatbelts. Like you don't have complete lawlessness. So why does lawlessness have to apply to guns? That's, to me, that's what floors me. And I don't get it. It's very discouraging, because it's like,
and you all still live in our home state, and so Steve Scalise planes apparently are just as dangerous as guns.
And Feral Pigs by Cassidy.
Yeah, I forgot. How many pigs have you all shot this year?
I'm looking all the Feral Pigs.
I just think, like, this is the thing. I just think something that's just common sense, and I haven't heard one good retort for it, is like, what is the need for semi-automatic or automatic rifles from regular citizens?
Yeah, they don't ever.
Nobody ever, like, I haven't heard one good reason why the public should have access to.
It was feral pigs.
It was a feral pig.
It was feral pigs. It was the prairie dogs. It was probably alligators here. It depends on what state you in, what wildlife you have to shoot. But that tells me you're not a good shot if you have to have a semi-automatic weapon to do that.
Right.
But I do know this: from 94 to 2004, assault weapons were banned. I even talked about this today, that even in our rap lyrics, so early 90s, they were talking about having AKs, because you could have an AK. All right, that went away. The guns of choice were Glocks, this, that, and the other, because people had handguns, right? Even in the music that we listen to. So what I do know for sure is that if you want to eliminate certain types of weapons from the everyday citizen, you can, and it has an impact, and it has cultural resonance.
Yes.
So anyway, well, thank y'all for being so animated and involved. I love when our people get into the hot topics. So, Dr. Max, Dr. Andrea Madheres, make sure I'm saying that correct. Yeah. So you are, I gotta shout it out, sister. So you both are alums of the Xavier University of Louisiana. Yes. So, thank you all for being here, but I want you to kind of introduce yourselves. Tell folks who you are, and tell us about your love story.
Okay. Huh? Okay. Well, I am Andrea, and we met at Xavier, and that's where I got my undergrad. I was a biology pre-med major there. I graduated in 2003. And then went to chiropractic school in Atlanta at Life University. And, we've been consistently together the whole time throughout that whole period, without getting too deep in that part.
So did you look across the yard and were like, "Ooh, he cute"? Or were y'all in the summer program together and were like, "Ooh, he cute"? What happened? Come on, guys.
Okay. So y'all want the TT.
Yeah.
So I met him during spring break. So I was the spring break of my freshman year, and he was a sophomore because he's 1 year older than me. And it was in Daytona Daytona, Florida. And it was ironic because I was with a group of my girls and he was with his brother and his boys. His brother is also Xavier alumnus as well. And we kind of both saw each other and was like, okay, whatever. And then eventually we all started mingling and talking. And I asked him what school he went to. And he said Xavier. And I was like, oh, okay. Basically like thinking the one in Ohio, and you know, because
I ain't seen you on campus, boy.
yeah. And
she knew what was up.
Whatever. And so then we, you know, we wound up exchanging numbers. But we didn't even exchange numbers because it was a time where everybody didn't have cell phones.
Yeah, we didn't have cell phones. Yeah.
So neither one of us had our cell phone on. I had a cell phone. I don't even think you had a cell phone.
I didn't have a cell phone. No.
And we was like, you know what? We're going to see you on campus. Xavier's small enough that I'm sure you will run into each other and we'll get our information there. And that was it. So we both went back to school that spring. We didn't see each other at all. And then when the fall of my sophomore year, his junior year, the first day of school, or was that Friday?
It was the first week. It wasn't really first.
Yeah, that Friday of the first week of school. Because I remember it being the weekend right after that. Saw him on the yard. First thing, like one of the, you know, first people I saw in the yard. And I was like, and I approached him then. And I was like, Daytona? He was like, yeah. And that's how we kind of hit it off. I mean, we didn't exchange numbers at that point either. So I'm like, God, dog, he must have a girlfriend,
a boo thing or something. Yeah, a situationship.
Something. But I wasn't impressed. But I was like, yeah, there's something going on. And so when I left school campus at the end of the day, I stopped at Rite Aid. That was on Carrollton, like right across the street, because he stayed in apartments right across the street from Xavier, Carrollton Park or wherever. And
hey, go Carrollton Park is in the house.
Yeah. And so I stopped in to get some stuff from the store. And as I'm in the checkout line, he walks in. So I'm like, I went to not ever seeing you to like now twice in one day. So I was like, hey, whatever. He still didn't say anything. So I'm like, all right, whatever. I go to my car, but something in me was like, all right, so maybe I'm not letting him know I'm into him because I'm playing it cool too. So I stayed by my car. I gave him one more shot. So I stayed by my car, acting like I'm getting something out, cleaning it out, do something. And then he passed again. And then that's when he asked me for my number. And I was like, okay, about time. Because you were
So what's up, bro? What's up? What was the holdup?
No, it wasn't no holdup. You know, first of all, the thing that she forgot to leave out is number one. When we met each other in Daytona, she knew who I was. Like she tried to play. She tried to play around. She tried to play games, but she knew exactly who I was because I knew her best friend already. And so, when I was in Daytona with my friends, like we were walking, so I didn't even see her, and she was like, they were kind of hanging on the side, and she saw me and my friends, and if she didn't know me, her friends must have saw me, so they were like, "Oh, there goes Max," you know.
I didn't even
so
know
she
your
was
name
like,
at the time.
No, but she was like, so she shouted me out. She was like, "Hey, Xavier," right? Mm-hmm. So that lets you know right there, like you knew what was up. But anyway,
I had never met him. I didn't know.
No, we didn't meet. Okay, so so then that day. No, what happened was when I saw her in the store, you know how like you just getting back to school and like you talking to people. So when we saw each other on campus, like you know how it is on campus first week, everybody's kind of chatting and mingling. So I saw her, but I didn't like completely stop my life because you know you're catching up with people you hadn't seen over the summer. And then but when I saw her in the store, what she didn't tell you is that she was in there for a reason, and that reason was she was making a purchase for something private, right? And can I say it? Okay, she was purchasing sanitary napkins. So she was kind of embarrassed, right? So she was kind of embarrassed, and I saw it, and I was like, "Yo, this is like really weird." If I try to like pull up and talk to her, sanitary napkins in her hand. So yeah, sorry. So then I was like, all right, she's probably just gonna like go about her business. I'll catch her on another day. And so when I walked out the store, I was probably, I had to go purchase something myself. So when I seen her, that's when we started talking. I was like, all right, so she's there, and I was just trying to be smooth. So I was just trying to play it cool. So
I absolutely thank you for the candor and the
Yes.
transparency
Yeah.
and and,
Yeah.
and, and keeping it 100% real. Cause y'all, it was Friday. It was on the yard. Usually when
Yeah.
you
yeah,
come back, there's usually a
Yeah.
yard show, some other
Yeah.
things happening,
it's
fishes
a lot.
frying.
Yeah.
Whole hey,
Yeah.
lots of things was
Yeah.
happening on that Friday.
Yeah,
But
Then we
that
went
girl
on
is
the
that
first
girl
date.
from Thibodeau though. So
Yeah. Yeah.
he better recognize. Don't play.
Don't
Don't
play.
play.
I'll give you one more chance because sis. And then we went on our first date. Was that the next night on the Saturday night? Yeah. Well, we went on a date that next night, and I fell asleep and almost didn't miss the date. And so he kind of had attitude because me and my friend was there. We was having girl talk. We had a little bottle of wine. I wasn't used to drinking at all, really. So I passed out on the bed. He was done, and he was calling me because we were supposed to meet up. And I did. He was like, "Look, if you got something going on, just let me know." Whatever. I was like, "No, I swear, I fell asleep. I legitimately fell asleep." But then I met him, and then we had the best day. We just talked the whole time. I mean talking for hours until we both was like head swinging, going to sleep. And it was like we had been friends for like ever. It was just a certain amount of comfort that we had with each other, and pretty much we went together ever since.
Okay.
Like, we'll
All
be
right.
together now.
All right. Well, how long have you all been married now?
12 years.
12 years. Well,
It'll
come
be
on for the
30.
black love.
Yes.
12
Come
years.
on for the black love. So one of the things I had titled this a millennial power couple because both of you are millennials. You're on the older end of the millennial spectrum
Yeah.
because you're 40 and 41.
Yeah.
But Angie, you said in our pre-show prep, you're like, I don't really feel that power couple thing. Tell us why.
Well, when you think of power couple, you think of almost in a way of perfection or having things completely together. And our experience with marriage is just a constant evolution of change and growing and learning. And when you're in that constant state, you don't ever feel like you always have it all together. And so you don't feel, for me and for him too, having that title of power couple, I don't want it to mislead people into thinking that, we have it all together at all times. We have 3 kids, and their ages are 5, 7, and 10. And it's a lot of work. And then with our careers, him being, anesthesiologist, I'm being a chiropractor, and I'm an entrepreneur. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of moving parts, and it's figuring things out day by day. And then you have periods of time where you feel like, okay, I got this. It's figured out. This something knock you on your butt, and you realize, all right, let's start over and try to figure this new phase out. So power couple, to me, especially in the age of social media, I just don't want it to, I shy away from it because I don't like it to mislead people into thinking that about marriage. Because marriage in general, one thing I've learned too is okay to be transparent because no marriage is perfect. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care how much they smile and present a good face and show whatever they show on social media. Everybody has their stuff. And I just want people to take that away. Coming from someone who we've been together 22 years this September. But like I said, almost 13 in September married. You know, it's a constant work in progress. So yes, I love my marriage. I love my family. I'm extremely grateful for it. I sit in gratitude almost daily, and I look around me and I say, wow, I love my life. I've never, even dreamed of the life that I have now. And when I say dream, I'm very comfortable. I'm very blessed. My kids are thriving. They're blessed. My husband and I both have our health. Our kids have all of their health. We're never having to think about, food on the table and things like that. To me, that's a blessing in itself. So I always sit in gratitude with that. And then anything else above that is just lanyard. And for me, I just want other couples or people in a relationship just know that, when you're in something, you're always going to have to work towards it. You're always going to, have to, fight for it. You're always going to have to put in some work, both parties. Because if one person's putting in work and others not, that's not going to work either. But both parties equally working, and then you can get to a place of just complete gratitude and just utopia is what Max like to call it, right? That's what we try to get to, more so than power. We try to get to, instead of power couple, we want to be a couple in utopia.
All right. Come on through with the utopia. Since I know you wanted to ask a question about social media specifically.
Oh, I just wanted to ask, I've seen you increase your social media presence and that Max has gotten in on a little bit of it. How have you managed to get him involved in some of your social media funness? I love when you licked his face the other day, by the way. I just want to say that.
He's not big on that type of social media entertainment. So I kind of, with that one, it was just like, come on, just do this. And we were by the pool at the house, so we were feeling good, and I know that's my time to, get that, do whatever I ask him to do or whatever. So I'm like, let's just do this cute little video. He was like, what? I'm like, you just have to sit there. That's all. So then Soundbite started playing, and he was like, really? But, he's one of those, you like it, I love it, even though sometimes I may not want to participate because that's not my personality. But just do your thing,
And what made you start wanting to increase in your social media? Just from a fun place or?
Yeah, it really came from just fun. Just, I'm in a place in my life where I'm truly happy inside and out. And when you feel that way, you just want it to project, and because we're in this social media, era, that's one of the best ways to project your inner workings and how you're feeling, and it makes me feel good. I like it. It's just fun. I've always liked being kind of like the entertaining type friend, because, I've always been very transparent and real and fun. Yeah. And so I look for fun content because that reflects who I am. So when I do it, honestly, it doesn't take me long because it's fun.
Yeah.
So, someone asked me, how many takes? You do that over and over? If something's a struggle and it takes me a long time, I can't do it. Because the way my life is set up, I can't spend too much time on anything that is like social or outside of what I need to do. So the stuff for me is, I'm limited as far as time-wise. So it never takes me long. I'll see you something, maybe takes a few minutes, get a few little takes, and I'm like, all right, that's good. Because I also don't put too much into it. I don't look for perfection in it. I just look for the fun in it, and if something becomes too arduous or too much of a task, then that's defeating the reason why I'm doing it for a release. Some people like going to the gym. Some people like doing yoga. I like doing content.
Okay. Hey, we all get our little dopamine boost somewhere, right?
Somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk about making it work, family and career. So, obviously, you all went through schooling, had to medical school, chiropractic school. I mean, there was some things that was going on, and maintaining your relationship during that time, and then getting married, having kids and family and all that stuff. How are y'all making it work?
Well, I mean, I think it's just it's a work in progress, I think I definitely feel like when we didn't have kids, it was way easier.
Clearly.
I think we're both goal-oriented and driven people. So when we were the first few years of our relationship, we were long distance, and more than just a lover, she was my friend. So because we were kind of in similar paths in healthcare, I called my friend just to, talk about, what I might have been going through in school. And she did the same. So we were just great friends that happened to be in love with each other. So that helped our relationship last when we were long distance. And I think when we started living together, of course, that's when you find out what the real is, when the real everyday issues come about. But even then, when it was just us, it was, to me, it was easy. Like we both were working, and we like dedicated ourselves to our professions. But when it was free time, we just had fun together, right? So again, like we were friends,
and we liked the same thing. We were both foodies.
Yeah, we're foodies.
So we were, when we first lived together, we moved to Detroit. That's where his residency was. So long distance, I was in chiropractic school in Atlanta. He was in medical school at Howard. So that was, about 6 years of long distance, 6 or 7 years of long distance before we got married. Then when he matched for his anesthesia residency in Detroit, that's when we was like, okay, let's kind of start consolidating our lives and bringing it together. Because we got engaged when I graduated from chiropractic school. And so by the time he matched and we were going to Detroit, we had been engaged for like a year. We were like, okay, let's try to, see how all of this works together. But I really feel like the reason why we were able to work from undergrad and then grad school, long distance and all of that up into marriage was the long distance. I think that built a good framework for us. We were able to get to know each other in a way that we probably wouldn't have had we been in the same city and town. Because, when you're with somebody, you sit down and you watch TV together, but that's not a lot of talking. That's not very in depth. Or if you're in the same city, you're on the phone, but it's not super deep because you're about to see them. And then once you're in person, especially being there for some years, you're not trying to dive deep and talk about anything. But when you're in long distance, that's the only way to be connected to that person. So you're looking for topics, you're looking at things to talk about. So then think about 6, 7 years of that, then you're like, this person through and through. I feel like this person knows me more than I know myself because we've had these long, drawn out conversations on the phone, because we couldn't see each other. So I think that's part of the reason why we were able to last so consistently throughout all of that whole time period. Was the long distance. It actually helped us.
But then comes the marriage, right? And I think the biggest thing with marriage is, and people say it all the time, they'd be like, oh, like you got to trust in God and, call me when it gets hard. Like, I think that, particularly in today's times, that people put an air on what marriage is supposed to be. Like, marriage is just, to me, it's a microcosm of life. It's not supposed to be, it's never going to be a straight line. Like, there's always twists, turns, and curves. And your ability to communicate effectively and your ability to try to put yourself in the other person's shoes and instead of like putting yourself first is extremely important. And I think those are the type of marriages that last, and it's not supposed to be roses all the time, and I think the addition of children more than anything, it'll test you. It'll test you, because like you're trying to put not only your partner first and make sure that their feelings are in a safe space, but your children too, right? Like you want your children to be whole and full and happy, and you want to give them some challenges, right? And make them understand like, oh, okay, you can't get everything you want, but at the same time, you don't want them harboring. You want to give them the most resources and the most access to everything so they can just flourish when they become adults. And I think those are the things, those inner everyday struggles are what fortifies when you have a marriage with a career and children, So it's not easy, it's not perfect, but I think when two people actually can see the bigger picture
on the same page
and they can be on the same page, right? Because even us, like we don't, in a moment, we may not necessarily agree on everything, right? But our ability to try to find ways to communicate effectively, I think is what helped fortify our marriage up until this point.
All right now. Well, listen, y'all are tuned in live now to Hey Sister. Y'all got all this free marital advice and counseling up in here. Sister, tell them about girl, this worth the price of admission, right? Well, I'm going to toss it to you. We were going to ask about, what are some of those crucial conversations you had to have? So I'm going to toss it to you, sister, to ask that.
Well, you already asked. I was going to ask a sort of a separate question
Okay,
before
well,
we
let me
got to
ask you a
Cooper.
separate. Let me let you ask that
Thank
now.
you.
Uh-huh.
So you all talk about how life, of course, changes once you have children. So how does it change from one to two to then three? And like, is it incremental changes, or does it by the time you got three, you like, I got this now? You know, how does that happen for, or how did it
Yeah.
happen for you all?
Well, I will tell you, I think for us it changed from one to two to three. Like,
Mhm.
so number one, I think when we had our first one, we were so excited that we were having our first child. She was a child, of course. They're all children of love, but like,
But she was a
she was
rainbow baby,
special. She was, yeah,
because I had lost the first one
yeah.
at like 22 weeks. It wasn't early, and there was no rhyme or reason, so it was hard to prepare for her, not knowing why. I was healthy, the baby was healthy. It was just okay, incompetent cervix, which is some blanketed diagnosis when they don't know why the baby just went into early delivery.
Mhm.
And so that was just so scary for her, wanting her to come into this world whole, healthy, safe, whatever. And so when she came, oh my God, we were through the roof. I was willing to sacrifice. I don't even have any bad feelings of, you know how when people talk about your first baby and the sleepless nights, and that was all a blur because I was happy to have it. I was just happy to have that. Wanted the sleepless nights. I just wanted to be there to have it. And so for her, she was just like our backpack kid. I mean, she had her first passport at like 3 months. So for us, we were determined because we were not only foodies, we love to travel. Like we love to travel. So we were like, we just gonna take her with us. I mean, she had been to Turks and Caicos. Like she went everywhere with us.
She was like an accessory.
Yeah.
Yeah, people had traveled with accessories. Like, we didn't have an accessory dog. We just had the accessory baby.
Baby.
Like,
And she was so used to it that like every time we went on flights, when we get off, people like, it was a baby in there. We never knew. We got that constantly because she just knew how to travel. And then when the second baby came, it was okay, this is different. And her personality, she was just
well, not when she was a baby.
nah, she wasn't a bad baby, but it was just different. It was different because we didn't travel a lot when.
No, yeah, that shut down. So I think with Gabrielle, the first one, you had four hands, right? And so even when she was tired, she would pass her off to me. When I was tired, I would pass her off to her. But we had four hands on her. So then when Vivian came, they were like, okay, we had two hands per child, right? So the level of responsibility and
when he's working, he became partner. He's working all these crazy hours at the hospital. Then that's more on me at the time.
Yeah.
And then
the boy came.
One hand for each kid. You like, hold up, player. Wait a minute, this juggling
if
now.
one of those hands are gone, you feel totally overwhelmed and overpowered by the kids and whatever your career. You come home, you're tired, and you have these two small ones that they just getting started. They just getting out of daycare and they ready like they all over the place, and you're just like, oh my God, what did I do? I just want to lay down. I just want to have me time. There was no such thing. I mean, I went through a period of time. I didn't even know what me time was. Like, it's a blur now, but it was just like, it was like a sacrificial stage for real, because I was in it to like really be present, be there. It just was a lot. And then by the time Kingston came, now he was a game changer as far as help goes, because when you're trying to get help for one, that's easy. Two, yeah, but it's still doable. But when you get that third, deuces. Everybody like, you know what? When they get older, I might be able to take them all by myself. But, not an infant. Because Vivian was 6 months when I found out I was pregnant with Kingston. I almost passed out. Because all my pregnancies had been planned up until that point. Kingston wasn't planned. And it wasn't that we didn't rule out that we wanted a third child. We didn't rule it in either. It was just like, all right, well, let's see where this goes, because our life had changed so much. And then so when I found out I was pregnant with Kingston, Vivi was 6 months. I was like, I couldn't even see it. I was like, wait, she's still breastfeeding. She's on my hip. Like, what is going on? And then when he came, I had an infant, I had a 1.5-year-old, and then I had a 3-year-old, R4. And it was just like, shut it down for a few years. That's just really what it came down to. And it changed, and that was like a real stressful period, because then also Max had some projects where he's writing a book, and I'm changing jobs. I'm trying to figure out what best suit me as a mom of three in my profession. What does that look like? You know, I'm figuring out I cannot work till 6 anymore, you know, 9 to 6, 9 to 5. Like I had to try to get in that stage. And when you're not working for yourself and you're in private practice, you can't just dictate hours like that. Yeah, I want to work from 8 to 1, 8 to 2. That doesn't work like that. So really trying to navigate that and figuring out getting help and actually following through with that and getting the help, it made a huge difference. But it you know, it created some challenges for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, y'all telling it. Y'all telling all the real stuff. The
Yeah.
real. I love it. I love it. I love it. So then that means y'all had to have some crucial conversations.
We did. We did.
So like tell us about some of those. So I shared in the prep and my sisters heard myself and Jeffrey say this all the time. The best advice we got, Pastor B.W. McClendon said, you handle your family, you handle your family. So that make a lot of crucial conversations real easy. Like, okay, I know they crazy. Let me go head on over here and do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
What type of crucial conversations did you have to have? Even like because I can only imagine, like, dang, you gone all this time and I'm here with these children by
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
Bruh.
Well,
Yeah.
actually, it went in phases. I have two sets of conversations that were important to me. When we first got married, his mother told us, it's actually because I was complaining. I had just had, no, this was right after Gabby was born. And we were still in Detroit. And we were transplants. So it was still just us and the baby. And I was just kind of like complaining that my mother, my mother-in-law, none of our family was in town. So it was just us and it was just the baby and da 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 da. And my mother-in-law was like, look, the best place to be is when it's just you guys, especially at the beginning of a marriage, because you don't have outside forces putting any undue influence on your marriage. And it that made a lot of sense to me because I felt like in the beginning stages, had I been at home or had we had been in his home, it would have been a lot of our opinion on what y'all should do with your life, what y'all should do with your marriage, what y'all should do with your kids, when you should start to try. And so really it was a good isolation for us to be in a different city at the beginning of our marriage because we were able to just focus on us without any undue influence, which was a good thing, you know. And now that I look at it, I'm like, heck yeah, it's a good thing because now I move home and it's a little bit different, you know what I mean? But so that was a good conversation and a tidbit of information. And it's like, look, it's good to be a transplant. Enjoy that. And that way you can work on your family. And then by the time you're around other people, or if you ever, you know who your family is, you know your goal, you know your structure. So you're not going to really waver from that. And that was, you know, pretty good advice. Any tidbit, crucial conversations?
I mean, I think we have crucial conversations all the time. Like, you know, one of the things is like, you know, since we're on this platform, I think it's very good to have just like mental health checkups, and whether it's for your personal peace of mind, but I mean, we have a therapist that, you know, whenever like there's something that needs to be discussed or we have a conflict,
we can't see eye to eye,
we can't resolve it through conversation, or we may get into these things where we start going off on tangents trying to prove points. We both say, okay, it's time to see our therapist, and we go see our therapist, and he helps us, you know, work through navigate through our issues. So again, and it's not about one person being right or wrong. Again, a lot of times it's just that it's just like in any other thing, when you have a disagreement, sometimes the disagreement may not even be that deep, or there could be just a deeper underlying issue where it just hasn't been communicated effectively. And so that's how it's helped us, you know, fortify our marriage, you know, and it's like, you know, it's worth, you know, I'm a type of person where I just feel like, you know, when you love someone and you love them deeply, I mean, they're worth holding on to, you know, and fighting for, especially like the structure of, you know, a Black family. I'm a person who like just believes in family structure, period, you know, and I feel like family structure will help our communities thrive. And so because I'm a person, I try to live my values. that I'm going to give every inch in order to ensure that everything that surrounds my inner circle, which is my family and my closest friends, that we're out here, living our best life and doing the best that we can, and we want to try to minimize mental health as much as possible. We want to make sure that we're thinking clearly to reach our goals, whatever those are.
Yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
then also is that mental health also for our careers. Being a minority in healthcare in our professions, that's a stressor all in itself. You know, so and you can also bring that home. So it's like a full circle, a spectrum as far as why making sure you account for mental health and taking those measures to make sure you're healthy and whole is vital. For your partnership.
Absolutely. All right. Well, then, how y'all keeping it grown and sexy? What's the secret sauce to keeping it grown and sexy?
But
Having
oh,
her lick you on the
well,
face on social media, is
I'm
that
just saying, look,
it?
I mean, it's sexy. I mean, I think it's just a mindset of how you feel about yourself.
All right now.
If
Mhm.
you are, if you are in a space where you eating right and you living right, you getting enough sun, and you keeping the haters off you, I mean, hey, look, your skin gonna glow. Uh, uh, but if you're consuming with foolishness and you got a lot of negativity around you, um, it'll affect you in different ways. And so I think with us, the way we keep it growing, I mean, again, I like to work hard, but when I like to have fun, I like to
You
have
less loose.
I let loose,
Yeah.
especially with like my close friends.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when it's time to us to step out and have a good time, I'm gonna have a good time. My section gonna be lit every time.
Yeah. You pull out
So
all the stops.
so
And then
so
for us, when we
yeah.
do that, it makes us feel young again. It makes
Yeah.
us feel connected. It makes us feel sexy together. It's just fun. It's just, keeping that element in there is what keeps the romantic side going, you know. And, it's when I was younger and I thought of people our age, I didn't imagine what we are now. Because to me, we're the same as when we were in our 20s. When I say our mindset, now we're evolving in certain ways, but physically, I feel like we're the same. We do some of the same things physically, and it's
Girl, your knees bounce back when you're dropping like it's hot.
I,
Some of us
I
don't have
haven't
that
fixed
bounce
that.
back like that.
You know what I'm saying? But yeah,
I got a few years ahead of you, though. I'm
yeah,
almost a
yeah,
decade ahead.
yeah. I don't get, sometimes like, whoo, yeah, I feel that with my back. Come fix my back. But for overall though, we try to keep it spicy as well. And there's never really long periods of time where we're not being romantic with each other.
And there's also like the thing that we also realize, like Angie said before, we're very fortunate. So we have the ability to, like, one thing we both like to travel. So um, we just have careers where that's even possible to do that. So we travel at least twice a year, which for a family of five is pretty good. I would say.
And then we have personal trips
and then we
kind
have
of
personal
scattered
trips,
throughout
throughout. So
for us.
yeah, so I mean that is when you're kid free, that kind of like gives you that extra bounce, that you're not necessarily
Yeah.
worried. So
Yeah.
we're very
We try
grateful
to
and
sneak those
fortunate
trips
for
in, even if it's for a weekend.
that. Yeah.
Even if it's for a continuing education conference, like Max just had continuing education in Palm Springs, and I'm like, I'm coming. He's like, all right, and it was great. You know what I'm saying? And I appreciate that time, and it's always much needed, and it helps us connect and keep it growing and sexy for sure.
Okay. All right, sister, you have another question?
I have a question, but I had some comments. I was going to say, when we had Clinton, Deanna, Lewis on here, they have this 90-day rule. They are franchisees and they are in business together, but they had this 90-day rule that after 90 days they have to go away together in order
Mm-hmm.
to sort of keep things in proper perspective in order.
I would.
I was, huh?
I said I agree with that. Yeah, for sure. Because that's about the time period when we start itching to go somewhere together.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then I was gonna also say it was also probably good you weren't at home when you had your first baby. Talking about you had her in the past with a passport at 3 months, because you know you ain't supposed to take a child outside. Apparently, if you grew up in Louisiana, they can't even go outside for like the first year or something. So
baby got in the house because the baby open. What is that?
Your pores are open. Your pores are open, girl. Listen.
Open. What? What happened to the baby?
Exactly. So do you all have a scheduled date night though as well? And also, do you have, you said you have counseling together, do you do separate counseling?
With the first question, yes, we do date night. We try to do it at least 1 to 2 Fridays a month.
Okay.
Some Fridays he's on call, so that's why it's a particular number. But the Fridays that he's not on call for the most part, because we have a sitter that comes regularly, a nanny or whatever, and so we always know she's going to be here during those hours. So we automatically know, like, as long as he's not on call, we're going to go on a date night. And those are great because, once again, we're foodies, so we connect over food and drinks, and we talk about our week. And you know, for us, date night is part of our
culture.
Yeah, our self-care, our couple care. What do you call that? Yeah,
I like that, couple care.
Yeah, our couple care is just, it has to happen because, you know, dinners with your children is not the same. Like you're not. We barely pass 2 words to each other when we're eating with our kids because they're constantly yabbering. You're constantly correcting. Sit down, put your fork. Eat with your hand. Don't eat with your hands. Get your knife. You know. So it's like you can't even have an adult conversation during those times. So it's refreshing to have an adult conversation with your mate beyond the craziness of the household. So the date nights are essential. And what was the second question?
Therapy.
Oh, and counseling separate and
yes, we do both. But it's by the same person. And so sometimes, like, especially when we don't have an issue that needs conflict resolution, sometimes on a personal front, if there's something, I'll go into therapy myself and try to work that out because, you know, when I'm happy and whole, you know, that whole thing, the whole household is, and I just, you know, need to make sure I'm there. Or, you know, when they say you pour from an empty cup, you can't pour from an empty cup. Yeah, I think all of that is essential.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then tell us about how you're going to make it last forever, the next decade, 40 and 41, y'all in that juicy time. The fourth decade is that still dipping and doing time. So what is your outlook for the next decade?
Well, I listen, like from the time I was young, like I always had this vision for my life. And so when I was 20, I visualized how my life was going to be at 30. And when I was 30, I visualized how my life was going to be at 40. So I've already I'm looking forward to the next decade as we go into our 50s. Like, I just look forward for, like, what are our kids that are kind of going to start reaching that early adulthood. And I just want to see how, you know, they're going to flourish during that time frame. And I just, my prayer is that, you know, we put them in positions to where, like, there just is no limit. So, like, you know, we had dreams, and, you know, we've reached some dreams, right? But I feel like your dreams are only limited by what you can see. And so I hope for our children, like, with as much access to whatever it is that they need or what they have right now, that by the time they reach early adulthood, they realize, like, that nobody can put any limitation on them and what they can do. So that's the part that I look forward to.
Okay. All right. So, Max, Angie alluded to it earlier that you wrote a book, and you wrote a book with with some of your friends, other Xavierites, The Pulse of Perseverance. I'm going to drop the scroller there so you all can go to the website. Tell us about, the book, why you all wrote it, and what is your vision for kind of really keeping it going and growing?
Well, so what you're referencing to is, yes, it is a book. It's called Pulse of Perseverance, 3 Black Doctors on a Journey to Success. And what it really talks about is, you know, 2 of my best friends. One is Dr. Peter Johnson. He's an OBGYN in Chicago. My other best friend, his name is Joseph Simeon. He's in Lake Charles, Louisiana right now. And what it talked about is, it talks about everywhere where even when you have a driven child, if they come from marginalized environments, how things can go left at any point.
Mhm.
And for a lot of us, for a lot of particularly like black people, minority individuals, um, a lot of times our boys are going through so many things, right? It's our children in general, but particularly
Mhm.
like black male youth. They go through a range of emotions, and we talk about some of the mishaps and the missteps on the way, even when you're driven. And so the book is raw, it's uncut, it's authentic, and the origin of the book basically came from this. When we came from, I'm originally from Brooklyn, was raised in D.C., but we all were raised in like the period where the elements called the crack era. And so when we got to Xavier, we will be considered. We came from areas where we considered the smart kids, and
Mhm.
from wherever we came from, right? But we get to the school where you realize like we weren't necessarily the most prepared.
Mhm.
And so when we met each other, we were basically all depressed because it's like people talk about like what happens to a dream that's deferred, right? So we were all in this phase where it was just like, uh, would we eventually become doctors? Were we smart enough? Were we good enough? All those things that run through your mind. And what we had is we found each other during that period of depression, and we just made a bond to each other that we're not going to leave any man behind. And so we carry that mantra all the way through um, board certifications. And so the thing about it was that once we've reached our well, what for most people would be like, oh, your pinnacle of success, right? We didn't want to rest on our laurels. Like we felt that, especially during that time when, you saw so many things about, what the media was putting out there about, black men and how, kids were being brutalized and shot in the street. And, we felt like that narrative is always written about, black youth, right? So we thought that it was extremely important to just tell our own story from a perspective where the world may not necessarily know, right?
Mhm.
And so the other perspective was to say, okay, we made it. I have my blueprint, right? Pierre has a blueprint. Joe has a blueprint. So if we combine these blueprints for, the parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, whoever the village is around that's surrounding these children, it'll give them more insight when you have a child that's from a marginalized environment but wants more than whatever they see in their immediate in
Mhm.
their immediate surroundings. So the book gives a lot of like gems about potential pitfalls about what they might find as you try to help this child, right?
Mhm.
So, and if you know what's coming ahead, again, you're more prepared, to help them get through those hurdles or those setbacks.
Mhm.
So that's what the book came, right? And so from the authenticity of the book, what ended up happening is people picked it up on social media, and it got its own buzz on social media. So then it hit certain platforms, and it was like a avalanche. And before
Mhm.
you know it, we were sitting on like major news platforms
Mhm.
talking about our experience. And so instead of again using the book, just as a blueprint for success, what we wanted to do was create resources. So every month, because we think it's extremely important that black men are seen in positions of philanthropy and giving. Um, every month we give monthly scholarships to children who are from underprivileged environments, but who also have the pulse of perseverance. And what's the pulse of perseverance? The pulse of perseverance is just an ideal that you're not going to let your circumstances define your future. You're not going to let things that happen to you affect your outcome, and you're not going to accept failure as an option. So every month we highlight young black children who are doing great things and amazing things in their community on our platform, and also give them $1,000 scholarship to continue on their educational path. And
All
we
right.
have a couple of other things coming down the pipeline, but I'll save that for later.
Well, I mean, I'm sure someone has optioned the book to make a movie or a series or something. Come on with
Yeah.
it. Yeah,
No,
something.
I mean,
Listen,
we are again because we want to control our own narrative. Uh,
absolutely.
we're very protective of the book because the book was published. I mean, it's distributed through Amazon, but it's all of us. We didn't have a ghostwriter.
Right.
You know, there was nobody like, telling our story. And we're very selective about that. So we want to protect that by any means,
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. Well,
um,
my sister, you telling your story is your jam. That's
Yeah,
your ministry
yeah,
right there.
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely. I
yeah,
believe we all should. So thank you all for telling yours.
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
So we're still impacting kids, every day
Mentoring.
and mentoring every month. I have, dozens and dozens of mentees. We've already impacted over 50 kids with scholarships. So we're really proud of that. And, now it's just about taking, the ideal to a whole nother level when it comes to mentorship, because we know we're all products of strong mentorship, and we know how important that is and how that can impact lives. And, so
Exposure.
Yeah.
we definitely want to expand the ground. And it's we people always ask us, well, focus on kids being doctors. No, we just want kids to be successful in whatever it is they choose, and we want them to know all of the options that they have at an earlier age, because again, you can only see what you're exposed to. So we want to just open up their minds to like let them know that there's a plethora of things out there, that they can be and they can achieve and they can accomplish. But again, they have to have the exposure and the mentorship in order to get there.
Absolutely. Well, if you're an educator out there, if you know a kid that has the pulse of perseverance, go to the website. I dropped it in the comments as well. Apply for a monthly scholarship. Maybe they'll be featured. Hey, you might have to apply more than one time, but that definitely shows your perseverance, right?
That's a
Right.
fact.
Um, so I absolutely love that. Well, we're gonna do a little rapid fire. Oh, yeah. See, somebody else said, love that. Yeah, that was our guest last week. Amanda's tuning in. Thanks for tuning in tonight. Well, thank you all so much for being with us tonight. I do have a couple little things to kind of, normally we ask people for one comment before we go, but I do have some little rapid fire questions for you. I see that's that Mardi Gras cup you sipping out of. So
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's water.
sweet or salty? Y'all are foodies, so sweet or salty?
I like both.
I'm sweet.
Okay. Vodka or bourbon?
I'm vodka.
I'm kind of going towards bourbon now.
Recently though.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay. Night out or night in?
Night out.
out.
Okay.
We
All
outside.
right. Beach or mountains?
Beach.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Anything you want to leave the folks with in closing?
Nah, I just keep on keeping on. I know everything is rapidly changing in America right now with inflation and it blows my mind every time I go outside. It's something different, whether it's gas, grocery prices. Just be encouraged. Continue to walk in your path. Do what you need to do to preserve your mental health. Love on yourself, love on your family, love on your loved ones, and take care of your health.
Yeah.
Love yours. I would just say love yours. It's just like instead of focusing on what you don't have, focus on what you do have and appreciate that. Because we live in a world where there are tons of people out there outside of even this country,
Yeah.
let alone this country that have not for anything. And so we try to stay in a space of just gratitude for whatever we do have, by continuously giving and trying to be the best human beings we could possibly be. And I think like the Bible verse is true. Like the more you give, the more God fills your cup and blesses you in abundance. So we try to stay in that space.
Yeah.
All right. All right, sister, what do you want to say in closing? That was beautiful.
That was beautiful. And in closing, I would say in gratitude, thank you both for being on the show. This was really great. The time went by very fast, but I loved hearing everything, even the different remembrances about how you all met each other. And then, to taking nothing away from you, Max, but I got to focus on Angie for just a second. We always say that we've known her since she was a very little girl. And so it really does bring my heart joy to see you grow and blossom and be a reaching utopia couple,
Yeah.
because you've done amazing job with your family, and it warms my heart. So I'm just so proud of you. So
Thank
that's
you.
what I have
So
to say.
much. Well, it means so much coming from you. Both of you guys are my sisters, my big sisters. And growing up, I always looked up to you guys. You guys were always like shining stars in our city. So, I mean, I never had a doubt that you guys would be amazing because you guys were always different and classy and just, you know, so different, different in a good way, not conforming. And just, I've always looked up to you guys. I continue to look up to you guys. Keep doing amazing things. Thank you for inviting us on your platform. I love every time I see you at homecoming. I don't know if I can call you Kitty on here, Demetria.
You can call me. You call me what you
Okay.
call me whatever you want to call me.
But I look forward to it, and I look forward to like when I see some of my fellow alumni friends calling you big sis. I'm like, she your big sisters too. Okay, that was the first, so a little bit of possession there, like my big sis. That's not your big sis, but
You like I go way way back. Y'all go
yeah.
back this much. I go way way.
Yeah, exactly. And then, Christina, with all you're doing with your producing and your work, and I cannot wait, to support Thibodeauville and everything that you have going on with that. I'm full. It's awesome. It's a full circle moment for sure.
Absolutely. Well, with that, we're going to sign off tonight, y'all. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for being us. Thank you for everybody watching. If you guys will hold the line as we wave bye to everybody, have a good night.